I need to read about what I'm going to talk about today. This is notes I make. And, all right. A big part of my practice is that I'm trying to help people get a little more comfortable with discomfort. What I mean by that is that taking on anything new, like change in diet, et cetera, gets a little uncomfortable in the short term. But the thing about it is, it really is the short term, and people don't quite understand that, or don't want to think about that too much, or don't consider it enough when they're making a change, is that the discomfort goes away. We adapt. Our bodies and minds adapt. I've been experimenting and doing a good amount of reading on the idea of what's called hormetic stress. This is stress that is just enough to trigger changes in the body and adaptations in the body that are healthy and they're strengthening. This is where I see discomfort in my practice and working with people to try to help them improve their own lives, and that is dipping in to little bits of stress, getting a little bit uncomfortable, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable as a way of improving your overall health and happiness. But I think what happens is that we have this idea that if anybody's doing something that we perceive as uncomfortable, that they're miserable, and that's just wrong. It's like thinking that somebody who lives in a colder climate than you, and you don't like cold, therefore they must just hate where they live. It's probably not true unless that place is Tulsa. What I mean by that is that your body will adapt. Placing yourself in a little bit of cold now and then, or just not putting on that jacket every moment that you feel a little bit uncomfortable. We feel the slightest bit of discomfort, and what do? We make adjustments. That's what technology is there for. It's to try to make it so that we never feel a drop of discomfort. If we feel a little too cold, the heat goes on. If we feel a little too hot, the air conditioning comes on. If we feel a little bit bored, or we're gonna, think about something, that's horrible, then we turn on this thing and we can distract ourselves from any kind of contemplation, because we don't want that. My point is that discomfort is not objective. Something is not objectively uncomfortable. It's how we perceive it. And if we can dive into something that's slightly uncomfortable a little bit, it becomes regular and comfortable such that it doesn't bother us anymore, and then I think that's a good time to maybe push it a little bit more. When we keep ourselves in little bits of discomfort, we avoid this sort of getting too comfortable in our lives. Just no change, no shake-up. You always kind of want a little bit of fire under your ass to kind of keep yourself engaged in your life, so that new things open up, and that everything kind of stays alive, and that goes for relationships and also your own health and happiness, that there's changes, even, and maybe they're little, but changes that kind of keep you paying attention. I do sauna therapy almost every day. I do cold showers every day. And those are, to me, those are just my things of my two things that keep me awake a little bit, present. When you're in a really, really cold, ice cold shower, you're not drifting. Your brain isn't going and thinking about all the things you have to do. You're in the moment. You're right there. And when you're in the sauna and it's that hot, 130 degrees, and you're kind of like, whoa, and you're in that moment. It keeps you there. And I think that's a really good thing to dive into. I think taking days that you don't eat the same thing that you always eat, that you change those things up a little bit. That is what exercise is, by the way. Just kind of a thing that you don't generally do, that you get up and it feels good, and afterwards it feels a lot better. So what I'm saying is that we don't have to sit in like misery and discomfort all the time. I'm saying dipping will make you stronger. When you get used to taking on something that makes you uncomfortable, you can tackle most things, because that won't be a hindrance. You won't be like, if I do that, I'm gonna be uncomfortable. Like, yeah, of course I'm gonna be uncomfortable for a little while, and then I'll get past that. You start to see what goes on past that. I'm not saying that we gotta go Charles Ingalls it up in Little House on the Prairie, and by the way, I mean, how tough was he? I mean, that's my kind